Chapter 1 Introduction The Enemy They Feared Most. In multiple after-action reports collected by the Imperial Japanese Army between 1942 and 1945, one specific phrase appeared repeatedly. Among the American forces, the Marines are the most formidable. This assessment did not come from propaganda or Western sources. It came from captured diaries, intelligence interrogations, and preserved battlefield memoranda written by Japanese officers who had faced the United States Marine Corps during the Pacific Campaign. Japanese soldiers encountered numerous Allied formations across the region: U.S. Army infantry divisions, Australian forces, British units, and regional defense groups. However, the Marines earned a reputation for being the most relentless, the most tactically coordinated, and the most willing to fight at close range. This perception formed early in the war, notably during the Guadalcanal campaign in 1942, and persisted until the end of hostilities in 1945. The reasons behind this fear were not cultural misunderstandings or exaggerations. They were rooted in observable battlefield realities. The Marine Corps possessed a doctrine, training methodology, and combat structure optimized specifically for the type of brutal, close-quarters island warfare that came to define the Pacific theater. Chapter 2 The Marine Corps Doctrine. The U.S. Marine Corps entered World War II with a unique tactical doctrine built on small unit autonomy, aggressive maneuvering, and precision fire discipline. A Marine rifle squad was structured around the Browning automatic rifle, BAR, giving every squad organic automatic fire capability. This differed sharply from Japanese infantry squads, which relied on bolt-action Arisaka rifles and a single Type 96 or Type 99 light machine gun that frequently overheated or malfunctioned in humid conditions. Marine training emphasized fire and maneuver tactics, with NCOs trained to take initiative without direct orders. Japanese reports frequently noted this behavior. One captured officer wrote during the Guadalcanal campaign, "Marine units operate like independent packs. When one group is engaged, another strikes from the flank." The Marine Corps also fielded integrated support weapons at the platoon and company level, including M1919 machine guns, 60mm mortars, demolition teams, and flamethrower operators. This combination created an environment where Marines could respond rapidly to Japanese infiltration tactics and night assaults. Unlike many U.S. Army units that arrived later in the war, the Marine Corps had prepared specifically for amphibious operations since the 1920s. Their pre-war Fleet Marine Force exercises in the Caribbean and Pacific built the foundation for the landings at Guadalcanal, Tarawa, and later Iwo Jima and Okinawa. Chapter 3 Japanese Tactical Culture vs. Marine Combat Doctrine. The Imperial Japanese Army relied heavily on morale-based offensive tactics derived from Bushido philosophy. Individual bravery, willingness to die in combat, and rigid hierarchical obedience were core components of their doctrine. These principles produced fierce fighters, but they often clashed with modern combined arms warfare. Japanese infantry operated with minimal fire support compared to Western forces. Artillery shortages, underpowered mortars, and logistical difficulties at sea meant that many garrisons were isolated, undersupplied, and forced into defensive attrition battles. The Marine Corps doctrine, by contrast, emphasized calculated use of automatic weapons, covering fire, and coordinated assaults supported by naval gunfire, close air support from F-4F Wildcats or F-4U Corsairs, and ship-based artillery. Japanese accounts frequently noted that Marines advanced methodically, clearing every trench and bunker with grenades, bar bursts, or flamethrowers. One intelligence extract from 1943 stated, "The American Marine fights not for death but for advantage. They do not retreat from our charges. They fire with precision and do not waste ammunition." Chapter 4 Island Warfare, Terrain that Favored the Marines. The geography of the Pacific Islands, dense jungle, coral ridges, narrow beaches, and labyrinths of caves, played directly into Marine training. Pre-war doctrine included detailed studies on jungle movement, night patrolling, and fighting in confined terrain. Guadalcanal, August 1942 to February 1943. The first major ground offensive conducted by the United States in the Pacific became the foundation of the Marine reputation. The 1st Marine Division held Henderson Field against continuous Japanese reinforcements, artillery shortages, and disease. Japanese diaries from the early battles near the Mataniko River describe Marines as highly coordinated in night combat and resistant to fear tactics. Tarawa, November 1943. The 2nd Marine Division suffered heavy casualties during the landing due to coral reefs and entrenched Japanese defenses, but their persistence shocked the defenders. Japanese officers had believed the island was impregnable. The Marines took it in 76 hours. Peleliu, September, November 1944. Peleliu's ridges and cave systems created a prolonged and deadly fight. Japanese survivors noted that Marines adapted quickly, using flamethrowers, demolitions, and coordinated assaults to neutralize fortified positions that traditional infantry assaults could not break. In each of these campaigns, the Marines demonstrated an ability to sustain pressure, absorb counterattacks, and systematically dismantle Japanese defensive networks. This consistency, recorded in Japanese internal reports, contributed to the perception of the Marines as a uniquely dangerous adversary. Chapter 5: The Failure of Banzai Charges. Japanese infantry assaults, known collectively as banzai charges, were intended to break enemy morale through shock and mass. They had some success early in the war against undermanned or inexperienced Allied units. Against the Marines, however, they repeatedly resulted in catastrophic losses. Guadalcanal, the Battle of the Tenaru, August 21, 1942. Colonel Kayaneo Ichiki led a force of approximately 900 elite troops in a night assault on Marine positions east of Henderson Field. Marine machine guns, 75 mm pack howitzers, and coordinated fields of fire annihilated the formation. Japanese records show fewer than 100 survivors escaping. Saipan, the largest banzai charge of the war, July 7, 1944. Approximately 3,000 Japanese soldiers, including wounded personnel taken from field hospitals, charged Marine and Army positions. Marine units of the 27th Regiment absorbed the attack with interlocking machine gun fire and M1 Garand volleys. American casualties were significant, but the Japanese attack collapsed within hours. After Saipan, Japanese commanders largely abandoned mass charges and shifted to defensive attrition. Their reports acknowledged that Marines were unbroken by heroic assault, and that such attacks resulted in unsustainable losses. Chapter 6: Close Quarters Combat. Why Marines Dominated. The Pacific War frequently devolved into close quarters combat. Japanese soldiers excelled in infiltration tactics, night movement, and silent attacks using bayonets or grenades. However, Marines were trained to counter these tactics through aggressive patrolling, fire discipline, and tight perimeter security. Marine positions used overlapping sectors of automatic fire, trip flares, and early warning systems. The bar, capable of sustained automatic bursts, proved decisive in repelling infiltration attempts. Japanese diaries repeatedly mention the shock of encountering Marines who advanced into contested trenches rather than retreating. In the Battle of Cape Gloucester and later on Okinawa, Marine squads executed systematic bunker clearing drills involving grenades, flame projectors, and demolition charges. Japanese defensive doctrine relied on soldiers remaining in fortified positions to the last man, but Marines adapted by employing combined fire and maneuver to defeat such defenses efficiently. Chapter 7: The Flamethrower Factor. One of the most psychologically devastating weapons in the Pacific was the M2 flamethrower. The confined terrain of the islands, caves, pillboxes, and underground tunnels amplified the weapon's effect. Japanese defensive bunkers, constructed from coral, logs, and earth, were designed to resist small arms fire but not direct flame. Flamethrower teams typically operated in pairs, supported by riflemen and demolition specialists. Japanese soldiers, aware of the weapon's capabilities, often fired at flamethrower operators first. Nonetheless, these teams were highly effective. On Iwo Jima alone, Marine flamethrower assaults led by units from the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions were credited with neutralizing hundreds of fortified positions. Japanese post-battle interrogations frequently mention fear of the flamethrower specifically. One officer wrote, "A soldier may endure bullets, but fire removes all resolve." Chapter 8: Psychological Warfare. While Japanese propaganda portrayed Americans as undisciplined and morally weak, battlefield experience forced a reassessment. Marine units utilized psychological warfare methods uncommon for the time, including loudspeaker broadcasts offering surrender, leaflet drops, and tactical deception at night to disrupt Japanese morale. Captured Japanese soldiers reported confusion caused by Marine counterattacks during night infiltration attempts. Marines used flares, pre-registered mortar fire, and sudden small unit thrusts to disrupt enemy concentrations. This precision contrasted sharply with the Japanese expectation that American forces avoided night operations. Additionally, Marines were known for aggressive intelligence gathering. Captured documents, interrogations, and patrol reports allowed them to map Japanese positions with increasing accuracy. By mid-1944, Japanese commanders stated that Marines anticipate every move. Chapter 9: Okinawa, the Breaking Point. The Battle of Okinawa, April-June 1945, represented the culmination of Marine experience in the Pacific. The 1st and 6th Marine Divisions faced one of the most heavily fortified defensive networks of the war, including the Shuri Line. Japanese soldiers reported that Marine artillery coordination, particularly 75 mm pack howitzers and 105 mm guns, was faster and more accurate than anticipated. Marine infantry advanced steadily despite high casualties, systematically clearing ridge networks and cave systems. Japanese morale deteriorated rapidly. Reports from the 32nd Army mention that Marines were fearless in approach, never leaving wounded, and impossible to shake with night assault. This final campaign cemented the perception that the Marine Corps was a uniquely dangerous opponent. Chapter 10: Why the Fear Was Justified. By the end of the war, Japanese strategic assessments consistently ranked the U.S. Marine Corps as the most formidable ground opponent they encountered. The reasons were based on tangible factors: superior small unit tactics and fire discipline, high availability of automatic weapons per squad, integration of flamethrowers, demolitions, and mortars, strong NCO leadership and distributed decision-making, amphibious doctrine perfected over decades, reliable supply chains and consistent fire support, adaptability to jungle and close-quarters conditions, psychological resilience during night attacks and attrition battles. The Japanese soldier did not fear the Marines because of myth or propaganda. He feared them because, in repeated engagements across multiple islands, Marine units demonstrated a consistent ability to adapt, endure, and overwhelm. From Guadalcanal to Okinawa, the record shows that the Marines earned their reputation through performance, not perception. This reputation, recorded in enemy documents, explains why the Imperial Japanese Army regarded the U.S. Marine Corps as the enemy they feared most in the Pacific War.